There, where he struck the river. It bleeds.
In 1956, a newborn baby was hired just hours after being born. His father was Charlton H., and the director put him in a basket that started sinking on camera. H dove in and nearly electrocuted himself, saving his own son. But that wasn't the wildest moment on set. There was real pig's blood rotting under the sun, a heart attack on a 130-foot ladder, and an orgy scene so out of control they had to bring in guards. The truth about what happened during filming stayed hidden for decades until now. Sealby DeMille's 1956 epic was known for its ambition, but what went on behind the scenes was just as wild as what made it on screen. For the hail plague scene, they couldn't use real ice. It would have seriously hurt the 3,000 extras. Southey painted 50 pounds of popcorn silver and dropped it from 30 feet in the air. It worked until take 7 when stuntman Eddie Parker inhaled a popcorn kernel mid-scene and started choking while hundreds of extras kept panicking like nothing was wrong. Deal didn't yell cut for a full 45 seconds. Later, Parker joked he almost died from fake divine wrath. After that, they switched to softer styrofoam pellets, which added another $2,800 to the film's already massive $13.5 million budget. Then there was the locust disaster. They paid $0.15 each for 2,000 grasshoppers and had them shipped in for the swarm scene. But the insects escaped across the desert set near Guadalupe, California. 47 crew members chased them for 6 hours with butterfly nets under the blazing sun, but only 800 were recovered. The rest got eaten by birds. The whole mess delayed filming by a day and cost Paramount $200 in overtime. Deal was so fed up he considered using animated bugs instead, but settled for a mix of rubber ones and camera tricks. That day became known among the crew as the moment Moses lost control of nature. Things didn't get any smoother during the frog plague. And Baxter, who played Nefertari, had a deep fear of frogs. So, naturally, they used 300 rubber ones on nearly invisible wires to simulate the invasion. But one extra smuggled in his pet bullfrog as a joke. During a close-up shot, it jumped right into Baxter's lap. She screamed so loud that Deal thought it was brilliant acting until they realized it was pure terror. It ruined 3 tapes. The frog, later nicknamed Moses Jr., was returned to the prankster extra, who lost $25 from his $1.40 daily wage. When it came time to toss at the river, turning to blood, things got even messier. The original plan was simple. Dump red dye into real Nile water hauled to set. But a sandstorm ruined everything, turning the mix into brown sludge. So, they bought 200 gallons of real pig's blood from a slaughterhouse for $150. It looked great on camera, but within hours it attracted swarms of flies. The blood began to rot under the 95 degrees heat, and the stench was unbearable. Charlton H. said it felt like a biblical punishment. They had to shoot in 30-minute shifts, and the makeup team went through 40 pounds of powder just covering fly bites. After 3 days, they had to abandon the set and rebuild somewhere else, spending another $12,000. And then came the smoke, literally. For the darkness plague, they used military-grade smoke grenades that filled the palace set with thick black fog. Brynner, playing Pharaoh, got disoriented and wandered the set for 20 minutes before slamming into a golden chariot worth $3,500. No one could see him, and Deal's voice didn't carry through the smoke. Brynner ended up with a nasty bruise and a bruised ego, but the footage of him stumbling actually looked so real they kept it in the final cut. After that, safety rules changed and they added ropes and emergency lights for all future smoke scenes. Before filming even began, Deal was already planning something legendary. He needed a newborn to play baby Moses and couldn't find one that matched the biblical age perfectly. On February 12, 1955, Charlton Heston, Fraser, was born at 3:47 a.m. Hours later, Deal sent him a telegram, "Congratulations on your son. He's hired." Fraser was just a few hours old and already had a job. Deal moved his nursery to the studio and scheduled feedings around shoots. He even had Otney director's chair made for him. Fraser earned $500 a day and was a 6-month-old millionaire. But filming the Nile scene nearly ended in disaster. On July 18, 1955, They placed baby Fraser in a waterproofed basket for a dramatic float across the water tank. The sealant failed under the heat and the basket began to sink. Fraser started crying and drifted toward the deep end. Charlton H. dove in fully dressed, ruining a $2,000 costume and nearly electrocuting himself because of underwater lights. He ignored the onset nurse yelling not to touch the baby with wet hands and scooped up his son mid-cry. The rescue took 47 seconds and was caught by Life magazine photographers. It became one of Hollywood's most famous behind-scenes moments. Directing Ababy turned out to be harder than any actor Demel had ever worked with. He created tiny 2 inches wide script pages and whispered things like "look prophetic" to a 3-month-old who couldn't even sit up. He spent $1,200 on a baby-sized megaphone and hired child psychologists to analyze Fraser's performance. But the baby only responded to his dad's voice. So Charlton had to hide behind cameras and sing Hebrew lullabies just to keep him calm. For one scene, they shot 847 feet off film for just 23 seconds of usable footage. Deal later said Charlton was easy to direct, but Fraser required divine help. The basket itself was another nightmare. They tried to make it historically accurate using Nile papyrus and 2,000-year-old techniques. But during rehearsal on July 15, 1955, the basket couldn't handle Fraser's weight and split in half, dumping him in shallow water. The entire crew froze. The mill halted production for 6 hours while the prop was reinforced with steel mesh and aircraft glue. That cost another $8,500 and delayed everything by 2 days. The final basket was so buoyant they had to weigh it down with lead strips to stop it from floating too much on camera. Then came the prophetic gurgle. During the discovery scene, baby Fraser made a strange sound that they called divine. The sound team added echo, temple bells, and angelic choirs to make it magical. In a 1998 interview, Fraser revealed the truth. It was just him spitting up formula milk after his bottle. It happened 23 minutes after his 2 p.m. feeding, which became his regular performance schedule. Deal never found out the enhanced sound won a technical Oscar. Brynner, who played Pharaoh, was just as intense. After seeing Charlton H's muscular build, he started lifting 200 pounds weights every morning and eating 6 raw eggs a day. His arms looked so veiny on camera, they had to adjust the lighting. No one expected the lean Broadway star to transform into such a strong screen presence. And Brynner didn't stop there. On April 22, 1956, he wrapped a Broadway performance each night, flew to California at dawn, filmed for 12 straight hours in 110-degree heat, and flew back for another stage show, all in less than 48 hours. He once even improvised the now famous line, "Let the name of Moses be stricken from every book and tablet," out of pure frustration after arguing with Deal. It wasn't in the script, but Deal loved it so much they used it as is. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. On May 18, 1956, a new scalp lotion gave Brynner a terrible allergic reaction. They covered the rash with gold dust makeup, but under the sun, his head sparkled like a disco ball. The footage looked ridiculous, and they had to reshoot everything, costing another $50,000. Hellitter joked he looked like King Tut's Slamp. His wildest moment came during the chariot chase. Alone. Deal wanted the Red Ceto part like a miracle, but what he got was a slow, expensive meltdown. The walls weren't CGI. They were made from 15T slabs of blue jello sitting inside huge water tanks. But under hot Technicolor lights, the gelatin melted faster than the crew could even start filming. For 6 months straight, the crew rebuilt those gel walls 50 separate times. Each try costing thousands. Refrigeration units didn't help, shooting at dawn didn't help. Nothing worked. Catering staff had to remove all gelatin desserts from the menu because the crew couldn't bear to look at Tanither wobbling cube. In the end, the only trick that worked was filming the walls collapsing in reverse and playing it backward to make them look like they were parting. The mill wanted water to crash through those walls. So, he ordered 360,000 gallons to be dumped from Paramount's overhead tanks. What happened next was biblical in the worst way. The water flooded the stage so badly that extras had to swim through the set, which was supposed to be dryland. 3 of them nearly drowned, and one later sued the studio after claiming got pneumonia. The water pressure destroyed the Jell-O setup again and again, forcing the crew to shoot the flood 17 times. Extras were stuck in wet robes between takes, shivering, and standing ankle-deep in a gritty soup of water, gelatin, and sand. Dill wasn't just a perfectionist. He became obsessed. Heston Jell-O mixes in his office using 2 pencils to part a bowl of gelatin and declared it God's own recipe. But that confidence didn't last. When they scaled it up, the gelatin walls wobbled so hard it looked like an earthquake. Someone suggested glycerin to stabilize the mixture. It worked, but made the floor dangerously slippery. The director insisted on tasting every batch himself. He'd reject them for being too earthly or lacking divine consistency. His assistant started taking notes, turning Dill's picky habits into what the crew called the sacred Jell-O scriptures. Meanwhile, flies were everywhere, drawn to the sugary walls like a curse from Exodus. And then came the extras. 8,000 of them, hurting that many people through a sticky, slippery set was chaos. Wind machines blew sand into the Jell-O walls, turning them into something like frosted sludge. The grit stuck to costumes, hair, and skin. It was impossible to clean. Makeup crews worked non-stop to scrub gelatin and sand from the beards of frustrated actors. People kept slipping and falling. But Dill didn't care. He said the chaos made it feel more real. On 80, a stagehand sneezed. Just one sneeze. But the vibration from that sneeze made the Jell-O wall collapse before the cameras could even roll. An entire day's shoot was ruined. Dill snapped. He banned sneezing. Seriously, guards handed out handkerchiefs like sacred relics. One assistant's only job was watching for people about to sneeze so they could be kicked off set. The handkerchiefs became collector's items. It got so absurd some people thought they were living inside a biblical comedy. On March 18, 1955, Dill was 73 and halfway up a 130-foot ladder to fix a stuck VistaVision camera. He was wearing riding boots. Halfway up, he had a heart attack. He froze there for 10 minutes, gripping the ladder, sweating, clinging for life. 3 crew members had to rappel up and rescue him. When they got him down, his first question was whether they got the shot. They had, but the footage was ordered destroyed to avoid studio backlash. 2 days later, he was back on set in a wheelchair with oxygen tanks. He directed the rest of the film that way, whispering into a throat mic. Extras said the commands felt like the voice of Moses echoing from nowhere. The wheelchair had specials and treads. He called his oxygen tank God's special effects. On April 12, Dill was standing just 12 feet away from the burning bush, yelling, "More divine awe, Moses," when a gust of wind blew the flames onto his sleeve. His arm caught fire. A grip tackled him into the sand. Dill refused treatment. He wrapped it in a wet cloth and went right back to directing. The megaphone he used got scorched but survived. He kept it as a souvenir. Then there was the stone tablet incident on May 8 while inspecting freshly carved granite commandments. A sudden rainstorm hit. Dill slipped on wet sand, twisted his ankle, and fractured it. For the rest of production, he limped around using a walking stick made from a leftover 10 Commandments staff prop. He could have taken time off. He didn't. May 23, the final day of shooting, Dill insisted on personally checking 47 magnesium flares that would simulate the pillar of fire. Flare number 33 misfired. Sparks flew straight into his face, burning off both his eyebrows. Instead of panicking, he joked, "Even God needs a retake." They had to draw fake eyebrows on him for the wrap photo. The misfire looked so epic on camera, he insisted they recreate it for the final cut. During the Golden Calf orgy scene, 500 extras got so carried away, it turned into something more like a nightclub than a biblical exodus. People were making out on camera. He halted the shoot, handed out modesty robes, and added guards. It still took 3 weeks to film, costing $75,000 just for extras. Charlton later said one actress screamed, "Who do I have to, ___, to get out of this movie?" Dill claimed it was